in 3, 2, 1, and we're live. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Technology for Good show. Good morning if you're in the US. It is Friday afternoon, 5 p.m. here in Spain. This is episode 32 of the Technology for Good show. And my guest on the show today is Sameer Patel. Sameer, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Tom, for having me. So Sameer Patel, I'm the SVP of Products and Go-to-Market in SAP SuccessFactors Cloud Business. And I've been here for about 2.5 years managing the collaboration business, which includes SAP Jam, which is our flagship collaboration platform with over 15 million subscribers. And Tom and I have known each other for many years, and this is an absolute privilege to finally get on the show. So thanks for having me.
Not at all, Sameer. And SAP Jam, I mean, you say it's a collaboration project, but you know, these days everything is a collaboration. Come on, what does it do? Is it what's it analogous to? If I've never heard of it before.
Well, I mean, it's so it is. You know, as we've come to expect, a lot of the social tools on the consumer web have found their ways into the enterprise, right? And this is SAP's play in that space. What's different about it, or at least the way we approach it, is from a technology or a product strategy ethos standpoint. You know, we believe strongly that there are big white spaces inside typical transaction processes that you and me and everybody conducted work, that your typical transaction application, like your CRM app or your ERP application, does not really fulfill. It doesn't let you connect with the right people to collaborate with them. And so we've designed Jam to be a layer that, you know, is a collaborative fabric that goes across the entire enterprise, but it weaves into those applications as well, so that when you're doing something within an application and you need the power of your network to find the right experts to collaborate with, they're available right there where you need them. And so we're integrated into, you know, processes that you might expect really could use collaboration, such as areas such as learning, for example, where peer-to-peer learning is a big untapped area outside of your very structured sort of PowerPoint-based learning. And we, you know, allow people to get what's in their brains on a retail floor, on a factory floor. They're not sitting in front of a computer, to really be able to bring that information and make it part of the organizational knowledge. Similarly, processes where you integrate and collaborate with your customers, or with, you know, sales processes or service processes. And so SAP sells business applications, as everybody knows. This is the one collaborative fabric that weaves through all of our apps and third-party applications. So that's sort of where we where we play, and we've had, like I said, in the last 8 quarters of our existence, we've grown to 15 million subscribers. So we're loving life is good.
Excellent, good stuff. Well, I'm glad to hear it's going well for you. We'll hit into the stories. So there's a number of stories that we wanted to get through this week, and we'll try and go through them reasonably quickly. We'll be going at a fair clip because there's a good few of them to talk about. So the first story that I saw, and typically, as is always the case with the show, we start with a bad news story, climate related, and then we'll break into the good news. So the bad news story, setting the kind of context for the show this week, is this one about worldwide carbon dioxide emissions reached record levels in 2013. And it's a bit of a surprise because the numbers had been going down, and part of that was probably related to the global downturn after 2008, and right. we saw the numbers going down after that.
Yeah.
For a long time. But now, in 2013, they increased by 2.3%, according to this new report. And we see that, for example, China is probably a large factor in this increase, because China's emissions have gone up to about 7.2 tons of carbon dioxide per person in 2013. Whereas, you know, previously they were down around the 2 tons per person mark. So it's gone up a lot in the last couple of years. India is still around 1.9, but that's gone up about 5% to 1.9. So it's grown 5.1% to get to that 1.9, and if it maintains that 5.1% for the next few years, they're going to be challenging China as well for most emissions. So we're at a kind of a scary scenario there, and we need to try and control that. And there was a big meeting during the week about that of global leaders, and China and the US committed to, well, they say they're going to commit to greater emissions reductions. We'll see what happens there. But that's the bad news out of the way, and
it's the shock and awe factor, right, Tom?
That's it. We've done the shock, now let's go for the awe. So the good news, and there's this organization in the US called ALEC, and ALEC stands for the American Legislative Exchange Council.
Yeah.
And basically it's a legislation mill. Basically, companies who want legislation friendly to them passed join ALEC. They get the guys in ALEC to write legislation for them. It then gets rubber stamped by the various state and federal government figures, and it gets passed into law. Now, it's right wing, and it's closely associated with fossil fuel companies, and as a result, companies like Google, who had been members of it, had been severely taken to task for being aligned with it. And just this week, Google have announced that they're going to stop supporting ALEC. They're going to leave the organization and stop contributing to them. And then subsequently, after Google announced that, we saw also Microsoft, Facebook, Yelp, and Yahoo so announcing that they're going to leave ALEC as well. So, eBay and AOL are still in there, and we hope that with a bit of a push and a bit of pressure, that they'll get out as well. As I'm not sure, and you probably don't know either. I suspect SAP are not members of ALEC, but I'd be surprised if they are, given SAP's record on sustainability and things like that. But as I say, eBay, AOL still in there, but with a bit of pressure, and the fact that all these others have left. I suspect it won't be long before we see eBay and AOL getting the hell out of that. Well,
sure. No, I go ahead.
Sorry,
so I was saying, I mean, look, I think, there's a couple of things, right? One is on the report about China and India. I mean, again, this is not condoning it in any way, but this is India and China's industrial revolution underway, right? And you go back to every successful country that participated in the industrial revolution and came out on the good side of it. There was a lot of side effects of that, and it's kind of happening again, right? It just is. It's just look at this. Go back to the 70s and look at the stories about where we were with the U.S., for example, right? And where we've come.
In fairness to China, their renewable energy goals are significant.
Yeah, exactly.
Investing more in renewables than any other country.
Right, and I think that's exactly the point. I think the point is that the rate at which we will recover from this is going to be 10x faster. I feel, right, compared to what it was before. The technology, the willingness, the awareness, the connections between social media that keeps everybody honest, and keeps the right issues on to bear. I think is really, really big. But I think there's looking at that, and then how Google everybody's reacting. To me, there's another sort of marvelous innovation, I think, or that'll ultimately, I think, drive behavior like we've never seen before, right? And that is, when you look at the advent of wearable technology now. And how it ambiently just creates sort of a heightened sense of consciousness around things around you, whether it's your own health or it's the environment around you. I think is going to start to really accelerate the pace at which we start to look at these things, because a lot of more people like you and me on the streets, times tens and hundreds of millions, are going to be aware without doing much. Mm-hmm. The problem that I think has existed so far, and this is I can draw analogies to my world of enterprise software, where we've built systems, even in the enterprise world, for the last 40 years, where the marvel of the system has been, look, let me show you how you can do 19 things with the system that you couldn't do before, right? And it's all been about, let me do this, and then this happens, and then do that, and then something else happens. The problem with that, though, is that the first part, which is too much doing. You and me, we're lazy. We don't like to do. We like the system to do stuff for us.
Yeah.
And the advent of wearables is exactly that. You put your Fitbit, on your arm, and you just go for a walk. You don't do anything. It's the same thing. You don't change any behavior. There you go.
Yeah.
There's no behavior change at all, right? And for no effort on your part other than putting that thing on your wrist, you learn so much.
Yeah.
I saw I saw another hardware device again on your arm, which was essentially consumerizing ECGs.
Oh, we'll be talking about that. That's one of the links that we'll be talking
there
about.
You go. So we got that. That's right. So I've been reading this stuff since last night. So you're right. It's in both places. But I think again, to me, that's fascinating. I think I'd written a blog post a while ago called "Big Data Needs Its Beef Burrito," and I'll explain what that is. There was a article. I'll tell you exactly who it is, so I give due credit to the people. So there's a professor by the name of Eugene Cordero from San Jose State University, and he figured out that the carbon footprint of a beef burrito is 5 times that of a chicken burrito.
Right. Okay. Doesn't surprise me.
What I loved about that is that it took this huge issue around climate and environment, and brought it down to a nugget that every human being, or at least most human beings who eat burritos, can understand.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful to me, right? Because it took this big thing. You always think about, like, what can I do to really affect some of these big changes? No, here, you can do something. It's brought it down to something you're going to eat tonight and make a conscious decision about what you're going to eat, right? And so I think when we look at these sorts of things, over the next 10 years, because of technologies, whether it's sensors that are looking at things around you that without you doing anything, or stuff like the actual devices on your hand, or a Nest thermometer, whatever it might be, I just think that the rate at which we will recover from these things is going to be 10x, because it's not about just the Chinese government or the Indian government saying stuff. A billion Indians will also be aware of what's going on, right?
Yeah.
That's my take. It's not. I'm not condoning it, but I just think we're going to recover faster.
And speaking of, I came across this story which I thought was pretty interesting as well, and it's a story about a solar concentrator made by IBM and a Switzerland-based group called Airlight Energy. Yeah. And it can not just produce solar energy, it can also produce clean water and air conditioning.
Right.
It's capable of producing 1,600 liters of water per day. Yeah. It can also produce about 12 kilowatts of energy. Yeah. What's really fascinating about it is it increases, because it's using a parabolic dish reflecting sunlight. Yeah. It can increase the radiation of the sun 2,000 times, and it can also, convert the photovoltaic panels can convert 80% of the sun's radiation into useful energy, which is far higher than normal. So what you're seeing in these kind of parabolic dishes are reflectors. So it's for all the world like a satellite dish.
Yeah.
You've got these reflectors reflecting the sunlight up into this central area, and the central area is where the photovoltaics are. There's actually a better picture of it down here. There you go.
Yeah, yeah.
And so the photovoltaics are in the center part.
Yeah.
And because you've got those mirrors reflecting it in, it gets highly concentrated, and then you get water cooling the solar panels because they'd fry otherwise. And so the water brings them down to a temperature where they're highly efficient. So it brings them to an idealized temperature. But of course, then as kind of a waste product of this, you get hot water. So you're getting electricity and hot water. And of course, if you use a decent system, the hot water can be converted into an AC.
And it's clean drinking water too.
Well, you can put a desalinator in it as well,
Yeah.
and through reverse osmosis,
Yeah.
harvest a little bit of the energy and have reverse
Yeah.
osmosis and have it produce, like it said, 1,600
Yeah.
liters of clean water per day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a beautiful idea, and
Yeah.
IBM went a little further. This is still not in production. But it's very close to. And as a consequence, IBM had this site called Project Sunflower.
Mm.
And what they say on this is that they're going to open applications from communities
Mm-hmm.
in 2015.
Yeah.
And the winners will be announced in December 2015 with installations beginning 2016. So they're going to give away 2 of these
Yeah.
to
That's
communities.
outstanding.
And any community can apply to be considered, and they're only going to give 2 of them away. But still, I mean, can you
That's
imagine?
huge. Yeah,
I strongly suspect these will go to developing nations, and great, because they can get the electricity and the clean water. I'm going to apply for it for our local school. Why not?
Why not?
They're not going to win, but it would be nice if they did.
Yeah, we can even name it after you, Tom. I mean, honestly, so the stories we're talking about, I have to admit, this was actually the one I was most looking forward to.
Yeah.
And for a different reason. So again, not to take away from all the benefits of that, of that device, but there's one that's kind of hits home more for me than others. Is the clean water, particularly clean water. Only I say that not because the other benefits aren't important, but specifically because I think that as causes go, amongst many of the big ones, that's one of the ones that's least catered to, whether that be in the media or in terms of actual solution, right? And growing up in India, this is not something I read in the newspaper. This is something I witnessed, growing up every day, right? Or at least every couple of weeks we'd go out, and you would see people, I mean, as a child growing up there, you're seeing, women the ages of my mother or even my grandmother, walking miles with a bucket of water on their head, right?
Yeah.
Just for the day's supply for their family, right? And I'd written a post about this too, where it was trying to make a different point with it around this notion of problem solving. There was somebody who came up with a very low tech device that instead of them having to actually roll it, they figured out how to create a drum.
Yes.
Right, a drum with like a tire, which is a tire around it, and so they're rolling it instead of the pane, right? And so I really dug into it and I did some research, and it said that there's 200 million hours are spent every day balancing 5 gallons of water on your head as you walk from sources that are miles away. Carrying water obviously leads to chronic head, back, and neck pain. 75% of girls between the age of 15 and 17 in the state of Rajasthan, which is a state in India, drop out of school because of such pressures on their time.
And why is it the girls?
I mean, for obvious reasons. Yeah, no, I mean, obviously it's not correct, but it's these are historic things where the boys study.
But it's the same in Africa.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole other issue, right? And I think that's bad enough. But I mean, again, to me, it's like, when you humanize so one is it's okay, why girls are not boys.
I mean, young boys will be stronger.
Yeah, but the stronger, and not to mention, one of the benefits of this, it was called the water wheel, right? That's the invention.
Yeah.
Right? And it said that now what happens is that this valuable time is freed up for women and girls to spend time on income-generating work, such as increasing the likelihood that young girls can now be educated. So, there's these ancillary benefits outside of just the physical stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so, this is something that just you look at these women doing it, and you're like, that could have been my mother or my grandmother, right? Not to mention, it's just so when I was reading that article, and I was like, I hope Tom goes in the direction of. I hope Tom also likes the water story, because I'm gonna kidnap the story and go in the direction of the water, because if these devices can create drinking water. Imagine these devices being in your farms, where it's creating the water where you work, and you literally have to step out in your yard, quote unquote, right, and grab it. Versus the stats that I threw at you.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about the generational shift, right? You're talking about educated mothers, and then what happens to their kids? It's just everything that comes with that. So if for nothing else, I hope it succeeds selfishly just for that one reason. Just only because when it comes to solar power, we have many different initiatives going on in the world, right?
Yeah.
And we've got a lot of help. The cavalry has arrived to help solve the solar problem. But I don't think we've come anywhere close to the water problem. It's still extremely fragmented and piecemeal.
One of the other cool things that I didn't mention in that article about this device is it's made from concrete and aluminium foil. The reflectors are made of aluminium foil, and the most of the structure is made from concrete. So it's not expensive. The most expensive part is going to be the photovoltaic bit. So, I mean, expensive is a relative term. I get that.
Sure.
But I think per kilowatt that it puts out, or per liter of water that it puts out, it's going to be cheaper than most other.
This is my point, right? Like, I mean, just imagine, suddenly it's like having a well show up in your fields that you never had, right? In a way, at least for the drinking water side of it. I'm extremely hopeful. I think it's a lot more scalable than some of the other solutions that are out there. So fingers crossed. And kudos to IBM. No
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The next stories I was going to bring up were, if I can find where it's gone here on the screen, it's running away from me. This one, and it's a story about there's two related stories.
Yeah.
The first one is this one about Belkin bringing out their LED light bulbs, and they join LifeX and they join Philips and several others, Osram, etc., who are bringing out LED light bulbs. So another one on the market. Belkin have a name in the Internet of Things space. Their guy Kevin Ashton was the guy who coined the expression Internet of Things, for example. I've got some Wemo kit here in the house, and it's quite good stuff.
Oh, really? Yeah. Tell me more. I mean, what do you like? What don't you like?
So I've got some of their connected plugs.
Yeah.
And they're quite good. There are pluses and minuses to them. For me, I've stopped using them, even though I did receive them. And the reason I've stopped using them is the app to get in was a bit clunky to get in and control them. Setup was a bit clunky as well, so that needs a bit of polish. And then they were drawing electricity the whole time while they were plugged in because they use Wi-Fi. And it means a constant draw of, and I've forgotten how much now, I want to say about 2 watts. So, that's 2 watts 24 hours a day per plug, which you don't need. So I've stopped using them. I liked the idea. I did use them for example, our Christmas tree, and I did a video of that. In fact, I posted a video of the Christmas tree, and then my pulling out the mobile phone and turning the Christmas tree lights on and off from the phone.
That's awesome.
And that was. But I think
kids must have loved that one.
They did, yeah, they did. So it was that was good fun, as you say. But I think the Belkin stuff needs a bit of polish in terms of the UI for the applications. Now, on this one, they have this link thing that goes with the bulbs, and it's a bit like if you get the Philips Hue bulbs, you need a little router thing as well, a dedicated device. And again, I think that's a weak point because, again, okay, it's only one device now instead of multiple devices that need to be plugged in and are drawing power full time. But again, the link needs to be plugged in and is drawing power full time. I'm not sure which protocols it uses, but I assume they use Wi-Fi as well as Z-Wave, Zigbee, and probably Bluetooth.
Yeah.
So, I'm a bit dubious about it, to be honest.
Okay.
Whereas, on the other hand, we see this one, which is a little more low-tech in some ways. This is a new one that's come out from this company called Stack, and it's called Alba. And the light bulb here, and I don't know what the price point is on these, but the light bulb in this one learn. It's a bit like the Nest thermostat. It begins to learn your movements.
Mm-hmm.
Got movement detectors, sensors built into it. So as you move into a room, it turns up the light. As you leave a room, it turns down the light. During daytime, it dims the light. At nighttime, it raises the light. If it's turned on, during the day, it doesn't have it as bright as it would be if it was turned on at nighttime. During the morning, it emits more blue light, and during the evening, it emits more yellow light. So it's got a lot of things like that built into it, and it claims, well, it's LED, so it uses significantly less energy.
Better out the gate, yeah.
Yeah, and then the claim is that because it's adjusting its behavior more cleverly, that it again will save even more energy.
Right.
So I think that, as opposed to the ones that you connect to with your, and you can connect to these ones with your smartphone as well. But I think that where it's using a bit of intelligence to actually use less energy, as opposed to relying on people to get out their smartphone, fire up the particular light bulbs application, log into it, change it, and then really,
that's a bit much. Yeah, no.
Too many
but
steps.
This was my point. This was exactly what I was saying in the beginning, right? When we're talking about sort of wearables, right? It's this idea of I start getting 2 to 3x value before I give you an ounce of value.
Yeah.
I mean, as harsh as that sounds, right? Fitbit, okay, fine, you download the app, whatever, but then you just start walking, and that's it. You just start walking, and it's just going to tell you how unhealthy you are. For free.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be the difference. But I mean, so I tend to agree with you. I mean, I think you're spot on, in terms of the differences and why you think that models are different. There are two things though that are, that sort of occurred to me on this front. One is, I think it's going to be interesting to see how much behavior change these tools can actually drive. Mm-hmm. So, back to your, so I'm a Nest user as well, right? And I love it. I love it for many, many reasons. But I have to say, though, when I look across how our household works, we still in some ways use it exactly like we did the analog one. Where it's like when we need the air conditioner, we turn it on. When we don't, we turn it off. I don't know if we're really letting Nest learn anything, honestly, right, to change our behavior. Because your natural reaction is, like I said, you're warm, you put the AC on, and you're cold, and you turn it off, right? You turn the heater on. So I think we'll get, again, better and better at figuring out the balance between our behavior changes and what these tools are actually designed to do, and for a while, are they actually going to be over-engineered?
Yeah.
Meaning, my son, who's what's that?
There's an amount of that in it. I mean, I've got Philips bulbs, I've got LifeX bulbs, I've got built-in plugs. They each have their own app, and
but that's fine.
None of them talk to each other.
Yeah.
So what we need is some kind of overarching platform that can control all of these devices, and
I think they're coming.
One app to open, and that can control everything. And it needs to be super simple.
I think that's coming. I don't think again the success or rather I don't think we'll see this in any sort of systematic way. We'll just land up 10 years from now and say someone solved it. And to me, it comes from three fundamental things, right? Which is, when you talk about these specific gadgets that improve, our, whether it's our energy consumption, just personal productivity or efficiency, let's call it that. And I think there's three vectors to it. One is, at the core of all of this is analytics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So to the degree that we are connecting analytics across these devices, right, and aggregating them, whether that's geographically or some other kind of demographic, and passing that information enormously back to you and me as consumers, that is a value add that your dumb, analog temperature thermometer gauge can't do at home, right? The second is networks, and this is close to my heart, as you can know, right? The world that I live in, where it's about how we, whether it's ambient transaction-based networks or data-based networks that are being connected at the back end, or people-based networks, but how are we leveraging the power of that community? And I look at, I joined for, just for the heck of it, and last weekend I actually downloaded Nextdoor, which is a new a hyper-local network, social network.
Oh, yes, yeah, I've heard about it.
Right? And people have been trying this for years, and this seems to be the first time it's stuck. I mean, I remember 7-8 years ago, there's something called Outside In. And then I look at the value of connecting Nextdoor to Nest. Right? And starting to essentially have even more, using the power of the social web, where you and I have agreed to share more of our personal lives like we do on Facebook than we do privately, because it opens the sphere of our relationship. And beyond the anonymized data that Nest can actually share back with me, what if you and I allowed ourselves to share more personal data on some kind of usage? Not, where I can say, my life is kind of similar to Tom's. He has 2 kids, I have 2 kids, our, wife, this, that, what we work. Why is it that my energy is 2x Tom's? What is it, right? So I can start to get some more data other than, oh, the average energy usage in Palo Alto is X and you're Y. Okay, that's better than saying average usage in America, sure. But I'd love to be able to, play in this. I think that's the second one. And then the third one is APIs, right? And that goes to what you're talking about, where I think it's not necessarily, it's not necessarily that we will, start to sort of rethink all the gadgets and everything. But I think someone will come up with, cleverly taking the APIs from, say, Nextdoor, Tesla, maybe, I don't know, I'm picking things, right, and Nest, and say, together I can tell you, I can combine these data sets, and that one app can holistically say, here's my neighborhood, Tesla, it's connected to my car, it knows where I'm entering Palo Alto, what does that mean for my energy usage? And, I think we'll start seeing these clever combinations of 2 to 3 applications that consume 80% of your life, not 100%. It won't be perfect for a while, right? But the beautiful thing here is this is not the George Jetsons, this is not the Jetsons show here. This is real, right? The gadgets are here. They're all Wi-Fi enabled. They come with APIs out of the box. I mean, Uber has an API, for God's sake, right? That's crazy.
Yeah. It's interesting as well. I mean, if you use something like IFTTT, you can start to string some of these things together. So I don't know if it's possible with Tesla, for example, but if it were, you could automatically have something happen like when the Tesla reaches 5 kilometers from home, it kicks an alert into your Nest thermostat to turn on your Nest.
This is my point. This is exactly.
And
you said it, right?
When you go 5 kilometers from home, it shuts down all the lights, and all these kinds of things.
Exactly. This is exactly my point, right? And and again, we're not here to guess the sort of various permutations and combinations, but even the example that you cited just shows the power of, this is what excites me so much about the industry that you and I are privileged to be part of. Is we're just getting started right now, where natively every single one of these disruptors, if you will, be that Tesla or be that Uber or be that Nest, is designed fundamentally on analytics, is designed fundamentally with an API day one, not an afterthought, right? And clever usage of mobile and location.
Put it like this, Sameer. I don't know about you, but when I was a kid,
you're still a kid, dude.
When I was
look at that stick behind you, like you're breaking your leg. You're doing the same things you always do.
Let's say when I was under 10, living in Ireland, we had one television channel and it was black and white.
Yeah.
And now you get video on your phone. So my kids now, one of them is under 10 and the other is just over 10. They're living in a world where everyone's got one of these, and we've got internet and all that kind of stuff. And they're going to look back when they're our age.
Yeah.
And they're going to say, do you remember when you couldn't do, and it'll be, all the stuff we're talking about today.
Yeah. No,
same when we say one channel in black and white.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think, it's funny. I was telling someone the other day. I mean, these changes we're already seeing in between kids' generations, right? So,
Yeah.
my 14-year-old nephew versus my 8-year-old son. When it comes to like, oh, I don't know the answer to something, my 14-year-old nephew will say, I'm going to go Google it.
Right.
My 8-year-old son, because he is only grown up with this,
Yeah.
says, I'm going to Safari. That's his portal to the world versus the 14-year-old who's only 6 years older, not you and me, not even this kind of, you and your kids or me and my kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. Even for between ages of 14 and 8, and I'm scared to think of what my 2-year-old, how she's going to think my 8-year-old is ridiculous in terms of how he does stuff. It's not about you. I mean, I think it's beyond you and me comparing ourselves to our kids.
No,
That's
they'll teach each other. They'll
yeah.
teach each other. They will.
So anyway, so I think, again, I mean, I think to me, this trifecta of, analytics, the power of networks, be them ambient or active networks that we are part of and engaging in, and then, APIs will just create wonderful combinations of data that is meaningful to you and me, where we feel part of this, right? Going back to even the first topic you talked about, when am I going to truly, not subconsciously, consciously care about, things around, climate issues and environmental issues? It's when I feel like I can actively do something about it myself.
Yeah.
And these technologies that are sensor-based will start to, if nothing else, tell me how terrible I might be at being a good, environmental citizen. Right?
Well,
that's a start. That's the first start. I mean, that is the first start.
No. I totally agree. Totally agree. And on that, if you're looking for something to do about it,
yes. Pitch me. There we go.
I've been talking before about electric vehicles. Well, here's the ultimate electric vehicle.
What is this?
It's a solar-powered car, completely solar-powered.
Wow.
It's a 4-seater.
Yeah.
It's fully road licensed and roadworthy. It won a competition in Australia where it won the Michelin Cruiser class for completing a 3,000 kilometer from Darwin to Adelaide, 3,000 kilometer journey from Darwin to Adelaide in Australia.
Wow.
Last fall. So it can go 500 miles on a single charge. So 500 miles, that's pretty impressive. It can go up to 80 miles an hour.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's now I think if you were going 80 miles an hour, you might not get the full 500 miles.
Sure.
Depending on how sunny it is, but it'll drive in the rain. Even it'll still, there's enough light in it, like in the solar panel, to allow it to drive when it's raining.
Does it have to look like this for...
This is version 1.
This is like this looks like a mullet on my head, and I could actually have one with the amount of hair on it.
It's version 1, but
no, it's gorgeous. I mean, no, the idea is spectacular. I'm just kidding. It's amazing. 500, 500, that kind of driving range. And again, like any other car, if you want to, push the performance, it's going to reduce your range. Nothing wrong with that. That's par for the course. That's where every other car is. Right?
Yeah, but for me, it's phenomenal because
I agree.
we've been talking about electric vehicles before and the Teslas and things like that, and they're great. They're fantastic. I'd love to have one.
Yeah.
But this opens up a whole new vista. I mean, they're not using storage. They're just using solar direct.
Mm.
So it's pretty phenomenal. And sticking with transportation, then we saw that Google's self-driving cars, and not just Google, but also I think it was Audi and it was probably BMW, I think, with the other one. I'll check in a second. It's in the article. So the DMV in California issued 25 permits for testing autonomous vehicles. Oh, there is Audi and Mercedes received 2 each, and Google won 25 of them. So Google got 25. So Google can have 25 vehicles that are licensed to drive autonomously. Audi have 2 and Mercedes have 2 as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean that's just another step on the road for these autonomous vehicles. It's for me, it's phenomenal to see the advances that are happening in this, and they're coming faster and faster all the time. I saw an article today, this morning. I don't know if I included in the links, about the lidars. That's the radars that sit on top of the Google cars.
Yeah,
I think they contain something like 64 separate radars, and they're doing 360-degree mapping the whole time.
Mm.
And there's a new lidar that's after coming out from another company, which costs about, I think it was $8,000, as opposed to the ones that Google are using.
Yeah.
So the Google ones cost like $50,000, and the new one is about $8,000. So it's bringing it a lot closer to everyday use.
Yeah.
I mean, now they're $8,000, and they reckon they can reduce the price to $1,000.
Wow.
So once they get it down to the $1,000 ballpark, then it becomes an optional extra on your car, just like the I don't know, the alloys, or a new kind of trim, or whatever else. It just becomes another tick box in your options.
So what's exciting you more, the geek in you that makes it a self-driving car, or the environmentalist in you that makes it solar powered?
They both do, for different reasons. So,
good answer.
No, yeah, the environmentalist in me loves the solar one, obviously.
Sure.
And the electric ones from Tesla, and I mean, Volkswagen are bringing out an electric Golf later this year.
Yeah, is it fully electric, or is it hybrid?
Fully electric. The Golf will be fully electric, and I mean that's amazing, because that's their best-selling car globally, and now that they're going to have an electric version of it.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So the electrification of our transportation fleet is happening big time, and that's phenomenal. That's really great. But the autonomous cars is really great as well, for two good reasons. A, they drive more efficiently. And so you get fuel savings there. If they're not electric, they're still saving on fuel because they're driving more efficiently. And B, they're way safer. They're way safer.
Why?
They don't crash. There's only been one crash of a Google car, and that was the other person's fault.
All right. Well, do you feel we're at a point where we have statistically correct data on that?
I don't know if the data exists, but I gotta say,
it's looking promising. It's looking promising.
Yeah, it is. The Google cars are not going to drive drunk. They're not going to drive tired. Yeah. They're not going to drive, after taking OxyContin or lithium, or something else that might impair your driving.
Yeah. No, I'm kidding. I'm just giving you grief. I agree with you. I think it's. I agree with you. I mean, I think on this front, there's two things. One is. I have to say first, though, that the abject capitalist in me loves the idea too, right? For Google, in that sense, meaning, what I think is sheer brilliance on Google. Talk about the ultimate think out of the box. Yeah. When Google went after this thing, the assertion in my mind, and I've not read this anyway. This is my speculation, though, is that. Google kind of owns most of owns the digital world in terms of your digital footprints and mine. Google knows as much as they're ever going to know, and maybe within 10-20% margin up or down, they're there. And so if you look at them going after a total quote unquote addressable market, if they had to limit themselves to the digital world, that is actually limiting, because you and I actually still spend, even people like you and me who are so wired. Still spend a reasonable amount of our time, offline, out of choice or not. And if Google could start to get, if you look at what they're doing with Google Express and even the self-driving cars, if they could start to, on one hand, learn a lot more about your offline preferences, where you shop, where you go, when you go home, when you come back. What else could they be targeting to us online in our digital footprint, right? Because they have a much better footprint of you. Yeah. And then the second thing is...
and they know what your thermostat is doing.
They know that anyway, because they own Nest now, right? And then the second thing is how are they... is the assertion then too that if we do spend a lot of time on Google properties, by making you not have to drive, you might spend more time on Google.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's
I mean,
very
it's
true.
you know what? There's
I
chutzpah behind that. I love it.
Yeah, I do it on the train, and now when there's Wi-Fi on planes, I do it on planes as well.
That's my
First thing I
point,
do, I'm
right?
sitting down, get out the laptop and start working.
Yeah, and you will stop, and you will use some Google product.
And if I could do it in the car, awesome.
This is my point.
Yeah,
So if you're Google and you're saying, I've kind of tapped Tom out on as far as his digital usage. Like Tom uses Google everything he does. Here he is on Hangouts using Google again, right? And I mean, when we talk about corporate business strategy and as a student of management myself, I think it's I mean, you can imagine them being inward and saying, how do I need, how to get Tom to spend more time digitally?
yeah,
They're saying, wait, that's being myopic actually, because if I go at the net time of Tom's awake time, he's actually not on the computer for 5 hours, and I want a piece of that.
yeah,
So it's genius, I think, right? Because everyone otherwise scratching their heads and saying, is this some other lab stupid experiment by Google cars? Who cares? No, it's genius. It is genius in my mind.
it is.
If they can pull it off, right? So more power to them,
Yeah.
And I'm proud to say that, I mean, I live a couple of miles away from them, and these cars drive by my house all the time, right? I see them. Yeah. I see them, all of them, But no, I mean, it's a great topic, Now let's see how they bring all the solar-powered stuff to life in all of this. Then we can meet both your interests, Tom, the gadget freak and the environmentalist.
Well, here's another Google story that I thought was interesting. They're building a 120 megawatt data center in the Netherlands. And they have a slew of data centers around the place. The one they're building in the Netherlands, and it was all over the news, the Netherlands this week. I was there. So it was all over the local news there. It's a big place near Groningen in the north. And it's beautifully situated because there's a load of renewable energy there, and Google are great in that front. They use that as part of their siting policy for their data centers, just like Facebook do, and Apple. But also, it's right beside where a load of fiber lands. So a lot of the transcontinental fiber from the US comes in right there, right beside it in Groningen. So it's keeping their ping times down, and it's powered renewably. And also, I mean, you've got the whole post-Snowden thing as well of them needing to have more EU-based data centers. So
we do that too. Yeah, we do that too.
Yeah, it's several wins there. I thought it was a particularly nice one. We'll push on through because there's a couple of other stories I wanted to get onto, and we're running low on time. I saw this story about Facebook. It's talking about their pushing out connectivity, and basically they've got these drones that they're going to start flying at heights above 60,000 feet.
It's crazy.
It's mad, isn't it? What they want to do is they want to do it in conjunction with local communities in places where there's very little connectivity.
Right.
So again, think India, Sub-Saharan Africa, parts of South America, and things like that. They want to do it in conjunction with the local communities there, and give them internet connectivity. So I mean, we all know how massively changing internet connectivity can become.
Yeah.
For lots of these communities, it'll completely change their lives to have this sudden access. Sure, it's Facebook and they're doing it for their own reasons. I get that. I mean, I'm not stupid. But on the other hand, they're not restricting the web to just Facebook.
Sure, of course. Yeah.
So I think it's off the charts awesome. I really.
Hey, but let me ask you this, and again, I don't know the answer to this question. It's really, you might. But when you look at the, again, I'll be a little bit of a skeptic for a second, right, on this topic.
I am too. Go on.
When 6 or 7, I think 7 years ago, I was in Kenya for a wedding. And a couple of friends and my wife, we went off to the Masai Mara, for the safari, and I live in Palo Alto, right? And today, the phone connection in my house is spotty at best.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
And I'll tell you why. I mean, someone actually confronted Steve Jobs, years ago and said, "Why is this true?" Because he lived in, his family still lives in Palo Alto as well, and in typical Steve Jobs fashion, right? So like someone asks this question, he puts his head down. Everyone's waiting to hear the profound answer from Steve Jobs, and he says, "Well, here's the problem. Every one of us wants internet connectivity, but none of us wants a tower in our backyards." So they've solved that problem now. But getting back to Kenya, even today though, it's not great. It's good, but it's not great.
Okay.
But I was airdropped into the Mara on a dirt strip, right, like middle of nowhere.
Right.
And a friend of mine was with us. His BlackBerry worked flawlessly. Flawlessly. Got on the internet, all of that, right? 7-8 years ago. So I guess my question is that, and again, I've not really studied, the benefits and what they're doing with the drones. I know what drones are, but we know exactly what they're doing. But are we getting ahead of ourselves on, technology overkill? Did we solve some of this stuff with the wireless, infrastructure that we've laid in these countries, or or no? That was a great start, but what the drones can do is I don't know, make it faster, make it better. There's more, things like video, this, that. I don't know. It's a question. Like I'm just trying to think:
Sure.
Are we overdosing on the technology here, or no? Drones will bring a whole other layer. Do you have an opinion on that?
It's a good question, but both Google, who have their project Loon, and Facebook, who have this drone project, they're both saying that they're targeting people who right now don't have a connection.
Right, but my question is it still cheaper to do this than to do wireless? I guess it's still my question, right?
Oh, okay, I got you. I have to think it's cheaper to do this, if only because they wouldn't be looking into it otherwise.
Well, less endpoints. Yeah, you need less endpoints because you just have this one thing flying over. Yeah, sure.
Exactly.
Maybe that's what it is.
These planes are engineered to fly for months and longer at a time.
Yeah.
So it's impressive. And the Google Loon, those balloons that they have, are also engineered to be up there for months, if not longer, at a time. It's weird. It's
what it teaches us, right? Is that it clearly says, look, neither Google nor Facebook is like you said, is going to restrict usage of the internet to their websites, of course.
Yeah.
But what it just amazes me and blows me away is, given that that's the reality, meaning of course it's the internet and they'll give you access to the internet.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that they're investing this kind of money just shows the power of your homepage. I presume that when you log on through this thing, it's going to first show up, Google or Facebook.
No doubt.
And just that is worth it, which is just unbelievable.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Right? But you can navigate immediately away, but no, it's still worth it for you to land on one of those sites. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah. Completely agree.
Right.
We'll push on.
Yeah, let's go.
Speaking of drones, DHL have announced they're doing deliveries. Sure, I get it. It's just this one tiny island in northern Germany, and it's on a test basis, but still they're doing deliveries by drone. So we're hitting into that reality now. It's starting to become real. Probably for the moment in just very unique and specific situations, but still that is starting to happen. Mm-hmm. And then I saw this story about UPS expanding its stores of 3D printing services. They had 6 across the US, and now increasing that to about 100 different locations. And they've got high quality 3D printers. So, I mean, I mentioned on the show last week, speaking of 3D printing, I mentioned on the show last week a company called Andiamo, who have been set up to do 3D printing of orthotics for kids. And it's a really, really important Indiegogo project, because they can turn around the time that these medical devices are printed out for kids. It brings the time down from months for delivery, and even the fitting process is much easier on kids as well, down to days. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty phenomenal. But the whole thing of 3D printing is really, really taking off. It's fascinating to see it. I mean, I'm reminded of Star Trek. Computer Earl Grey hot. The replicators they had.
It is.
It's
Yeah.
pretty similar technology. It's in some cases it's the same technology almost. You're not going to get a 3D printer printing out a cup of Earl Grey tea, obviously, yet, but
Yes.
it can certainly print out the cup. It's
Yeah.
it's phenomenal. We had a conference in London a couple of years back, and we had a guy at it, and he was talking about he was a train enthusiast. Old trains he was really enthusiastic about, the likes of steam engines and things.
Yeah.
He had one that they were rebuilding, and they were missing a part, and obviously they couldn't get anyone to make the part for them. So they were able to get a scan of it and get it 3D printed in metal.
That's ridiculous.
1:1 scale, same as the original. Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think, and it's. I often wonder why. I feel like 3D is still the conversation generally around 3D. I don't feel that we have enough depth around it. Meaning, you have these this random smattering of. Yeah, exactly. These random smattering of interesting stories.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's still everybody is being a bit tentative about the large scale value of
it. Hasn't got its killer app yet.
It's almost. Huh? What's that?
Hasn't got its killer app yet.
Exactly. It's like the big data problem, right? It's like everybody knows it's big, but no one knows what to do with it, or the sophistication around what can be done. But I find it actually, I kind of find it, to me, it's kind of strange, in fact, because when you do decide to invoke something with 3D printing, it immediately creates a physical object, which has context, unlike the big data thing where you got to go and scratch your head and say, what do I want to do with this thing? But just like you said, there are these specific use cases where it's just a no-brainer. Yeah. And so I think, but so it surprises me that it's still something we talk about as futuristic in a way, I feel. At least in my little time to surf the news, I feel like it gets very little play. But
yeah. We'll push on. There's a load of stories that we haven't got to yet, but there's two in particular that I did want to talk about.
Yeah, sure.
And so the first one of those is this story about a new app for phones, which gives sight to the blind, as it says in the headline. And basically, what it does is it allows people who have a smartphone to point the smartphone at some bit of text, and it'll read out the text to them.
Oh.
So for people who are blind, and I have a brother-in-law who's blind, and I can see this being incredibly useful to him. And this isn't a new app per se. This is a development. It's called KNFB, KNFB Reader, and it's in the App Store now for iOS. I assume it'll be in Android as well. I didn't check there, but when I checked in the App Store on the Apple App Store, it was quite expensive. It was around €80. So I'm used to finding apps in there for €1 or €2. So finding one for €80 is a bit of a sticker shock, but for someone who's blind, and that's a neat.
I mean, it's a no-brainer. Yeah, it's a no-brainer.
It is, I mean, one of the use cases that's mentioned in the article is a blind guy saying for him, he can go and he can pick up a box of coffee in his home, point the camera at it, and find out whether it's the decaf coffee or the regular coffee.
Yeah. That's ridiculous.
Simple stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you can also connect it to a printer to print out stuff in Braille. And
oh wow!
Yeah, exactly. And this is a further. I mean, this is a 30-year-old application done by Ray Kurzweil. So it's just a new interface to this old application, basically. It's been
Just,
developed and
and
developed and
nothing wrong,
developed.
and nothing wrong with that. Nothing
No,
wrong
no,
with
no,
that.
exactly. That in fact,
Like
it's
the
got an
devices
incredible
and the
pedigree.
metaphor, yeah, the metaphors to consume them with the iPhone have gotten better, or with the smartphone have gotten better. So puts in an entirely new light, right?
Exactly, and it's something that's been developed and developed and developed. So it's got an incredible pedigree, and it's obviously been getting better and better with every iteration over those years.
Yeah.
So, and like I say, it's from Ray Kurzweil. So wow. I mean, there's a futuristic guy if ever there was one. So it's I'm going to mention it to my brother-in-law because I know it would be a boon to him. He's thinking of getting a new phone
Yeah, but
anyway.
I would be, I would be very interested actually to see what he thinks about it, because I think
Likewise.
you and I can never really appreciate fully how practical, impractical. I mean, I think no one would disagree it's a bad. No one would say it's a bad thing. It's a good thing for sure. But the practicality of, if it were put in his hands and he were, if he's assuming he's fully blind,
Yeah.
uh, how does he get to that device? How does he know where to go to read something and then read it?
Yeah.
Does he even know where to point it? How accurate is it? Like if you talk about like the can that has the decaf coffee, does he know where to place it? Is it forgiving? Is it too exact where it's a pain in the butt?
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see how. And again, uh, this is more about, are we at an evolutionary stage, or this is, oh my God, they've nailed it. I mean, certain things, no question, right? Flat book. I know I'm holding a book. I can probably put it on the book and read. That's different. Um, but it'd be very interesting to see like 3, 4 specific things. And I mean, you could do a whole. It'd be interesting just to do a show on that. A
But
snippet on that.
even something. I mean, you're absolutely right. And I had the same thoughts as well. And even simple practical things like, what if your book is upside down? How does it handle that?
Right. The exception handling.
Yeah, exactly. But I gotta think. I mean, if a book is upside down, it
It'll
should be
tell you.
trivial. It should be trivial for it to read it,
Yeah,
flip
yeah,
it,
yeah.
and
Yeah,
um, I honestly don't know. So I
yeah.
you know,
But it's fantastic though that we even here trying this stuff. Let's put it that way. Right?
exactly. The last story that I wanted to mention today, and it's another great one, and
Yeah.
it's about Udacity. And
Yeah.
Udacity are one of these MOOCs, the massive open online courses, and
Yeah.
they've they came up with this idea of a nano degree, and
Yeah.
it's not a full degree. It's
Yeah.
it's a and most of the courses on Udacity and Coursera and all these ones are free.
Yeah.
The nano degree is one where you pay. You don't pay anything like the amount you would pay for a university degree.
Yeah.
You pay, I think, something like $200 or something like that, and you get this nano degree, and it's a very specialized degree. And in this case, they're after teaming up, and they're after coming up with a degree around programming, or a nano degree around programming, and they've done these things in conjunction with ATT, Cloudera, Salesforce, Autodesk, people like that.
Yeah.
So it's I mean, we're always talking about the lack of programmers in the world, the shortage of skills in IT.
Hmm.
They're after plugging 35 million into the development of these courses, and they're short little 1 minute videos with exercises and things like that. So it's in easily digestible bite-sized pieces. So for anyone to be able to come up with education courses like that, which allow people globally. I mean, I'm not thinking of Silicon Valley, where there's a lot more wealth in the world, and people can maybe, although it's not evenly distributed. I get that, but there's a lot of places where people would have no possibility of going to university.
Yeah.
Whereas if they save, they might get the $200. That's reachable.
I agree.
And suddenly they can get access to world-class education in something that can, get them a job anywhere in the world. I think it's just absolutely phenomenal. I think this opens up so many new horizons for people that could otherwise, wouldn't have access to it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have anything to add there. It's brilliant. You said it eloquently, right? I think you're absolutely right. I mean, to me, I think what I like most about this is what's most promising also about, or as promising, is is what it does to the supply side of knowledge, actually, not even the demand side. So, today the ability for a practitioner who has done something for 20 years to be able to impart knowledge is close to impossible today, right? Which is why it's all centered around the academic expert.
Yeah.
But these mechanisms allow you, Tom, for being done what you've done for all these years, to be able to find, digestible, bite-sized nuggets to be able to share. The mechanism for the supplier has been horrendous as well.
True.
Right? And you think about the net knowledge that comes into the market now, because it's practitioners talking, not just academics talking, creates a much wider pool of knowledge to be shared. It's not only the size, the format, but even the quality, in my mind, that goes up. And then, because these are all socially connected tools, the crowd will surface the best stuff to the top, as it always does, right? Yeah. As it always does. Yeah. So, but anyway, hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I know we went a little over, but it was a lot of fun.
It was good. It was great. It was great. Quick PSA, public service announcement. There's no show next week. Next week I will be in Maine for the Monktoberfest, our October conference in Maine. So next week's show is cancelled, but there'll be a show again in 2 weeks' time. Sameer, thanks a million for coming on the show. It's been great, and we'll see everyone here again in 2 weeks' time.
Awesome. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it.